France, the land of kings, cathedrals, and chivalry. But in the late 16th century, this nation, so proud of its heritage, was torn apart by a deadly conflict. The French Wars of Religion, a series of violent civil wars that engulfed the country from 1562 to 1598, were not just battles between rival armies, but a cataclysmic clash between faiths. Catholics against Huguenots, Protestants fighting for their right to worship freely. But what exactly caused this war, and why did it rage for over 3 decades? To understand the French Wars of Religion, we must first explore the religious and political context that set the stage for such violent conflict. By the mid-1500s, Europe was deeply divided over religious faith due to the Protestant Reformation initiated by Martin Luther in 1517. This theological upheaval had a profound impact on France, where Protestantism began to spread. By 1560, it was estimated that roughly 10% of the French population had converted to Protestantism, becoming known as Huguenots. However, the Huguenots were not simply a religious minority. They were also politically active, challenging the power of the Catholic monarchy. France, under the Valois dynasty, was a Catholic kingdom, and the king, Charles IX, was deeply influenced by his Catholic advisors, who feared the growing Protestant threat. Tensions were high between the Catholic majority and the increasingly organized Huguenot minority. But there was another crucial factor: France's deep political divisions, which would fuel the flames of this religious war. French politics were dominated by the powerful noble families, many of whom had their own religious leanings. The powerful Guises, staunchly Catholic, were in open conflict with the more moderate Montmorency and the Bourbon families, who had increasingly converted to Protestantism. These rival factions were not only competing for control of the French throne, but also using religion as a tool to further their ambitions. The conflict officially began in 1562 with the massacre at Wassy, a brutal event that marked the tipping point. In the town of Wassy, Catholic forces loyal to the Duke of Guise attacked a peaceful Huguenot congregation, killing dozens. This atrocity sparked nationwide violence and ignited the first phase of the French Wars of Religion. Both sides mobilized, and the conflict quickly escalated from local skirmishes to full-blown warfare. Key military leaders emerged on both sides. On the Protestant side, Admiral Gaspard de Coligny, a charismatic and skilled military commander, led Huguenot forces. Meanwhile, on the Catholic side, the Guises, led by the ambitious Duke of Guise, acted as fierce defenders of Catholicism, resorting to brutal tactics to suppress the Protestant revolt. The most infamous event of the French Wars of Religion occurred in 1570 to the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre. After a failed peace agreement between the Catholics and Protestants, tensions reached a boiling point. On the night of August 23rd, a marriage was arranged between the Catholic Marguerite de Valois and the Protestant Henry of Navarre, intended to foster peace. But the marriage was a facade. Instead, the marriage served as the spark for one of the most horrific episodes of the conflict. The day after the wedding, a well-coordinated, royal-backed massacre began, with Catholic mobs attacking Huguenots throughout Paris and later spreading to other cities. Thousands of Huguenots were slaughtered, including key leaders like Admiral Coligny. It was an act of mass murder, sanctioned by the monarchy, and it would forever alter the course of the war. After the massacre, the wars continued to rage. The Huguenots were pushed to the margins, but they would not relent. The conflict saw key battles, such as the Battle of Jarnac in 1569 and the Battle of Moncontour in 1569, where Catholic forces defeated the Huguenots, but at great cost. Despite these losses, the Huguenot cause remained alive, and the Bourbon family played a crucial role in their survival. Henry of Navarre, the leader of the Huguenots, was both a brilliant strategist and a symbol of Protestant resolve. In 1589, following the death of the last Valois monarch, Henry ascended as Henry IV, but his reign was not yet secure. He faced opposition from Catholic forces who refused to accept him as king. His famous declaration, "Paris is well worth a mass," reflected his pragmatic decision to convert to Catholicism in order to secure the throne, a move that would ultimately bring an end to the religious conflict. In 1598, after years of bloodshed, Henry IV issued the Edict of Nantes, a historic decree that granted religious tolerance to the Huguenots. For the first time in decades, the Protestants were granted significant rights, including the freedom to practice their religion openly and hold public office. The Edict of Nantes did not end the religious tensions overnight, but it provided the necessary framework for peace and marked the formal end of the French Wars of Religion. While the Edict of Nantes allowed for a period of relative peace, the underlying divisions within France would persist. The legacy of the Wars of Religion left scars on French society, divided communities, political factions, and a country forever marked by sectarian strife. The French Wars of Religion were not just a religious conflict, they were a battle for the soul of a nation. A nation torn between faiths, political ambitions, and dynastic struggles. The wars were devastating, claiming thousands of lives and changing the trajectory of French history. Yet, in the end, it was the pragmatism of Henry IV that brought about the resolution, a hard-won peace that allowed France to move forward into a new era of relative stability. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the complex and bloody history of the French Wars of Religion. If you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of history's most turbulent conflicts. Until next time, keep questioning the past to understand the present.